St. Agnes for me is a school about relationships. And it's the relationships with the students, with my colleagues, with the administration. And of course, first and foremost, it's most important our relationship with God.
I think the most important thing about St. Agnes is it's here to form the whole person. We want them to succeed, we want them to be good readers, writers, we want them to be great at their math facts, but above all, we want them to be holy.
I really love St. Agnes as a place where the Catholic faith is lived out in every facet of what we do. It's lived out in all the classrooms across all disciplines, mathematics and sciences, in the arts, out on the sports field. What we do in the Catholic mission and faith really undergirds everything that we do.
I can walk through the halls and know that each of those students, I know that they are a child of God.
Everybody is united on building that Catholic culture, how it's not just something that we say. It's not just one class that's taught here or there. It's not just something that was done in the past, but it's really something that's a living thing that's here now.
I think we're unique in that we don't just hire qualified teachers, we hire people who are committed to the mission of this school. They're experts in their field, but they're also committed to the faith. We have each of our teachers take an oath of fidelity to be an authentic witness of church teaching.
Here at St. Agnes, the teachers, we know it's a vocation. It's not just a job. It's not an occupation. It's a vocation. It's a calling. And that changes everything.
We're the last, I think the only and the last parish pre-K through 12 school in the Archdiocese of St. Paul in Minneapolis.
It's been a great situation where the school has added life for the parish, and the parish has added life. I've noticed that our families are families that I guess I would describe as being scrappy in a good way. In other words, they might only be of modest means, but they're unembarrassed of giving what they have to God, to Christ, and to St. Agnes. And that's just very humbling for me and also very encouraging for me.
I think what sets us apart is the fact that we're unabashedly Catholic. We are unafraid of proclaiming what it is that we are in an era where people don't want to hear the truths of the church.
I think what also stands out to me as a teacher is just that we can hold two things in tension. Academic excellence, but also care for the whole person, care for the whole student. I think most schools do one or the other really well. St. Agnes does both.
What parents ultimately are looking for, and I think is right, is they want a rigorous education for their children to prepare them for whatever's next, but they also want the faith to be integrated and taught well. I think we do those things really well here. So when I ask parents, well, what do you want? I go, then you're in the right place. This is the right place for your kids.
I had a kid who was in with me just the other day, and they'd been talking about the Eucharist and this idea of transubstantiation in class, a 7th grader. And he had all sorts of questions about, like, so that bit of bread, like, that's the body of Jesus. Like, how does that happen? Like, from a science perspective, if you looked at it, what would that be? He wanted to know all sorts of things about it. And then he asked me, could I come in tomorrow again? Because I'm really curious about this. Because I'm not a Christian, but this stuff's really interesting to me. So he had all sorts of questions about that he wanted to ask. I said, yeah, that's great. Come on in.
The mission of a Catholic school is not just the Catholic part of it. A school is a school, and therefore an academic institution. And we need kids who can read, write, and think extremely well. Kids need to be able to make sense of life, whether that's science or math or theology, English, any of the humanities that we have, history. It's important for them to learn those different pieces about why.
My favorite thing about going into a classroom is the fact that I love to encounter the real life questions that students have.
Our students ask real questions here. that's really prompted by the teachers and by what they read. So they read such good literature, and the history classes are very rich and full of real history, and their theology classes, dive into deep existential questions that all human beings have.
They want to know about God's plan for them. They want to know how God works, how God can transform suffering into salvation, how God expects some amazing things for them, how God is so powerful yet so gentle. They have wonderful questions. In fact, next week I'll be playing Stump the Priest with the 5th graders, and sometimes they do stump me. But that idea of just together trying to figure out God's divine providence, God who knows everything, He's allowing us to have a heart that wants to know. And He sometimes allows us to even understand some things, but not everything. We also have to be sometimes okay with mystery.
We're trying to educate the mind, and not just fill you with a bunch of facts, but really trying to teach you how to think, teach people how to think, and above all, try to cultivate a certain perspective or imagination, or a disposition of wonder and curiosity, and then the ability to pursue that about the world.
One thing I always try to remember is, Jesus is the divine teacher, and He's the one we have to lead them to, and He'll take care of everything. I can teach them their reading, I can teach them their math facts, but I can't teach them their whole life, but Jesus can. And so if I'm working with the parents to help instill that, then I have a lifelong lesson that will carry them throughout everything.
I think what sets students at St. Agnes apart is that they've got already a formation in their faith, which means in a lot of respects what they need next is the formation that's intellectual. So they've got the strong foundation that they need, and now they've got something that helps them to really explore it. There's that old idea of faith seeking understanding. Well, we're kind of in the game of trying to understand things.
I think it's important to ask yourself as a parent and as a teacher, what is education about? And I think our culture kind of has a misunderstanding about that. And we tend to think that education it's training in a specialty. It's skills work, basically the attainment of facts. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's good and useful, and you should learn facts in school. But that's not really what education is. Education is really to be led deeper into a personal relationship with the truth, and we as Catholics know that truth has a face in Jesus Christ.
The language of the virtues, it's intended to form the whole person, and we want them to be good friends, we want them to be good sons, good daughters, we want them to be leaders, we want them to be saints.
To be able to encourage students in virtue and to form students to be Christian disciples and to do their best. It's an experience that I haven't had in any other school before.
Things that are taught in the kindergarten, first grade, second grade, those virtues, those values, those are all passed up into the high school.
Our lower school every month has a different virtue of the month, but also virtue of the week. They have virtue assemblies wherein they talk about how to be better at self-control or be better at the virtue of prudence.
The whole family can come, be educated in one place, and we can reap some of the rewards of having everybody in one building, of having seniors interacting with grade school kids and helping out in various ways there. We have the House and Advisory Program, where at the beginning of each day, at the beginning of each week, we start off with a convocation, talk about the virtue we're focusing on that month, or a particular thing we're focusing on, like in the junior high this year, we're focusing on building healthy, authentic friendships. So there's a talk on that at the beginning of the week. Then at the beginning of each day, we have a chance to meet with our smaller group of kids to try to talk about what that looks like in their daily life.
We talk about life and how that's applied to life and how we need to grow, in the virtues that are, natural to us and the ones that are also supernatural to us.
I think the virtues that mainly come into play in a class like mine are the intellectual ones. We're trying to form the ability to habitually, consistently think well, have good conversations, be friendly and open to the ideas of other people, but not necessarily just accepting anything, challenging things reasonably, charitably.
It's in the hallway, it's in the classrooms that you walk by, the respect that you hear.
We are about well-rounded kids. We're not just about faith, but we're about reason, we're about virtue. And virtue happens in sports, it happens in arts. We do those three pillars well, faith, reason, and virtue. And I'm really proud of the way in which our school is committed to that mission.